Hello people, welcome to the NFT Nuggets YouTube channel. With 52 years under its belt, Garry Trudeau's Doonesbury has moved beyond comic strips and its commentary mode. It also serves as a highly acclaimed piece of personal narratives with sharp satire, wry cultural chronicle, and it has lasted through political commentary in its time. If you want more of this content, subscribe to the NFT Nuggets YouTube channel. The Canadian Prime Minister personally noted that the strip has delighted and entertained for over 50 years. Trudeau began the Les Sommets or the Summits in French while he was still in college. And by the time he reached his 5th annual summit this September, there were 73 characters. Renowned graphic designer Chip Kidd would agree with the creator's assessment that Doonesbury, when viewed as one long narrative work, reads like 14,000 plus reasons to laugh over your morning coffee. When it came time for Justin Trudeau to write about his top 10 most influential strips, he decided to take a journey of remembering and ultimately revisiting the importance of these messages. The earliest notice to be found of the sale of a Garry Trudeau drawn Doonesbury Sunday strip is the 1977 silent auction for a Duke strip by him. Doonesbury was already part of a landscape of political and cultural commentary by then, about 7 years after its debut as a syndicated daily on October 26, 1970. At the time in 1967, Trudeau had already taken tentative steps towards developing future Doonesbury comic strips when he created a sketch for The Record, Yale's humor magazine, with which he explored his idea into an initial Bull Tales strip. He shelved his idea at this point to revisit it in the next year as Bull Tales, with the same strip in the Yale Daily News that ran 1968 to 1970. From there, it took off as part of its 1970 syndicated daily debut and won an official Pulitzer Prize for editorial cartooning in 1975. Doonesbury has been defined through such strips as Watergate and Iraq War, among other groundbreaking topics tackled by its creator. Trudy has partnered with Heritage Auctions to offer 10 old strips from Doonesbury, along with a character map and portraits to raise funds for the International Medical Corps that helps internally displaced people and refugees in Ukraine. Justin Trudeau notes that he was initially reluctant to release these works as NFTs, until discovering Polygon Network, who use proof of stake and are committed to going carbon neutral by 2022. They've made a very strong public commitment to going carbon neutral sometime this year, and I think that has permitted many artists like myself to proceed cautiously. And I have a fairly long relationship with Heritage Auctions, both as a buyer and seller, creating an environment of mutual trust. We didn't want to get into this unless we could proceed responsibly, and that's what I believe we're doing. As cryptocurrencies became more popular, many artists in the cartooning industry were curious how to incorporate this new emerging technology into their work. Jason Chatfield created a forum for these cartoonists to pose questions. At the time, the environmental concerns were such that I wanted everyone to be aware of the state of play, as it were, of the NFT market before they dipped a toe in, says Chatfield, a comics creator and president of the National Cartoonist Society. Doonesbury creator Garry Trudeau notes that the artists being focused on the environmental impact of blockchain at the time, enthusiasm waned quickly as people became aware of the enormous carbon footprint created by NFT minting. He says even early adopters had already started peeling off. Trudeau's curiosity does not diminish. He stayed plugged in as blockchain technology evolved until he was recently introduced to an NFT company, Polygon, that announced last month it had reached eco-friendly carbon neutrality. The Heritage Auctions, Trudeau, and the Andrews McMeel Universal Properties are donating 100% of the proceeds from their 17-lot auction to the International Mining Conference. Garry Trudeau's Doonesbury has been around long enough to outlast many newspapers that once carried the Pulitzer Prize-winning strip. The comic strip has now been relegated to the Sunday strips, which arrive like a weekly Christmas gift. Over half-century, the comic has served many purposes, such as being a personal narrative, sharp satire, and political critique. It's like opening a Russian novel, right? Trudeau says because he feels that the stories about his characters have been told well over the course of their careers. He has written 73 entire comics since college and even created another 123 images. Graphic designer Chip Kidd would likely agree with the creator's assessment of Doonesbury. In 2010, Chip cited in Rolling Stone that when viewed as a single uninterrupted work of historical fiction, reads less like 40,000 plus reasons to chuckle over your morning coffee and more like this era's War and Peace. Trudeau has joined the live auctions business, giving all proceeds to a different charity every week. All work featuring Trudeau's characters will be offered beginning Thursday. The auction is an experiment for Trudeau, who has adapted to digital development since the 1940s. Technology, Trudeau says, is a challenge that he welcomes with skepticism and interest. Rick Akers, comics buyer and consignment director at Dallas-based Heritage Auction, says that with the advent and acceptance of NFT digital art, people in the comic and illustration market are looking towards new storefronts. The first one to be outed is Trudeau, which is in a series of 10+4 commissioned pieces by renowned Canadian artist Cody Chamberlain. Lots of people are interested in buying the property rights to a comic or graphic in order to make money from their art. It's important to note that individual units can't get permanently picked up by collectors. However, those auctions happened months ago and those pieces are now unavailable for purchase. In conjunction with Heritage Auctions, Trudeau has created a set of 10 strips from Doonesbury, accompanied by portraits and character map for the July 14 Doonesbury NFT charity auction. The funds raised will go to International Medical Corps' work of helping internally displaced persons and refugees affected by the war in Ukraine. Trudeau, Heritage Auctions, and Doonesbury publisher Andrews McMeel Universal are donating 100% of the proceeds from the 17-lot sale to the Institute of Museum and Community. For years, Trudeau was reluctant to place remittances on the blockchain, considering the environmental benefits of Polygon. Recently, Digiconomist noted that Polygon uses a form of proof of stake that can significantly reduce the energy used on the underlying blockchain. According to Trudeau, they've made a very strong public commitment to going carbon neutral sometime this year, and I think that has permitted many artists like myself to proceed cautiously. And I have a fairly long relationship with Heritage Auctions, both as a buyer and a seller, creating an environment of mutual trust. We didn't want to get into this unless we could proceed responsibly, and that's what I believe we're doing. In November 2020, Prime Minister Trudeau attempted the seemingly impossible, whittling down the mountain of strips to a handful that proved defining and enduring meaningful to him. As the Washington Post noted upon its publication of Trudeau's top 10, among their estimable lot, strips about Watergate, women's rights, onerous laws in Florida and Texas, AIDS, the war in Iraq, love and sex and death, and how all of this impacted the lives of those beloved characters of Trudeau's creation. Now, Heritage Auctions has partnered with Trudeau to offer the 10 strips of Doonesbury as NFTs. These strips will benefit International Medical Corps. Additionally, they will come with a print signed and numbered by Trudeau, who was one of the original 2 stars of the strip. The auction will be open for bidding on July 14th. The Western Reserve Historical Society is auctioning 100% of the proceeds from a 17-lot auction on Trudeau, Heritage Auction, and Doonesbury publisher Andrews McMeel Universal. All the funds will go to this charity. As a result, an opportunity to get physical artwork signed by Trudeau did not work out with the first company, but now you can exchange the tokens that are minted for other collectible items. Whereas digital tokens have proof of ownership stored in its blockchain database. These items that you trade in can be evidence of your ownership hung on your wall. The strips range from the early 1970s, when Doonesbury was commenting on the Watergate scandal and the feminist movement, to the early 21st century, when foundational character Beatty pointedly lost a leg in fighting in Fallujah, a time when the cartoonist began weaving more military narratives into his strip. From a professional standpoint, Trudeau notes that the main attraction of NFTs for me was not so much the potential revenue as it was the artistic challenge of working in a new medium. His many digital projects have included launching the Doonesbury website in the 1990s and giving his comic strips fictional correspondent Roland B. Headley Jr. a Twitter account in 2008. All of it was fun. Almost none of it profitable, he says. I just love the new tools, the new forms of expression. Doonesbury, who is no stranger to the digital world now, released a strip in 1995 with 3 CD-ROMs to coincide with its 25th anniversary. The site came online in 1996 in a best-selling pre-millennial anthology called The Bundled Doonesbury, a pre-millennial anthology followed in 1998. Cherry also released Doonesbury at 50, the complete digital Doonesbury, which included 50 years worth of strips on a single disc, all of which can be seen here with his portraits as well. Trudeau says it was serendipitous that his new eco-friendly minting technology came along just as he was looking for ways to support the International Medical Corps, which desperately needs the assistance as it helps refugees in Ukraine and those who have fled to neighboring countries. I think the timing was perfect to proceed with this experiment, according to Trudeau. And I say experiment because it's unknown how comic strip characters will be received among young collectors who didn't grow up with newspapers. For many Americans, some of the greatest cultural works have made their initial concepts, drafts, or processes appear grueling or even dull. Drab yesterdays are now replaced by bright futures because all that was tedious and bland is now literally past history. Garry Trudeau's Joni in Love comic strip was published on November 13, 1976. I think the timing was perfect to proceed with this experiment, and I say experiment because we don't know yet whether legacy comic strip characters have the same appeal as legacy cartoon and comic book superheroes. In a marketplace of young collectors who didn't grow up with newspaper, that's the unknown. The potential for income from the sales of this artwork caught his eye, since one does not have to resell physical art. The secondary market for NFTs often gives artists control over their work, with all subsequent sales delivering royalties to them. The model that Heritage purchased is not yet suited for his first Heritage auction, but he has urged them to adopt a house-wide policy of only minting NFTs with perpetual royalties due to fairness concerns. Trudeau won't invest in art, but he said he would buy art tokens for novelty and nostalgia. But will he advise syndicated colleagues to begin minting and selling their work? Scott Adams has concerns about the future of X-Men comic strips and Marvel NFTs. There is a potential that these corporate brands with strong brands may replace the competition. Meanwhile, he thinks that cartoon icons that are native to the platform, the apes and kitties and punks, are flourishing as speculative entities rather than as characters that anyone actually cares about. Trudeau's concern is that even if the rules of what is ethically acceptable change, because ethical businesses become the norm, Copymatic would still be at risk. Doonesbury went from a humor comic to an influential political satire. The strips often focus on events like the Vietnam War, the Watergate hearings, or drug use. Ed Coe once said that a New Yorker should read Doonesbury because it would teach them how to talk politics with people they didn't agree with. Thanks to one strip, we now have kvetching. Trudeau won the Pulitzer Prize in 1975 and often had a significant impact on national politics. I never went into cartooning to effect social change, and I never really perceived myself as a social justice warrior, according to Trudeau. I was mostly just reporting, initially reporting in my friends and this very small collegiate bubble that I lived in because I started out of college and then expanded beyond that as I made my way out into the world. I immediately started writing about the things that concerned me as a college student in the late 60s. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, politics, all that good stuff. I thought, well, there's no reason why I can't bring that to the comics page. That's it for this video, Nugget Lover. Remember to subscribe to our channel, and if you feel like we've delivered value, please share this video with one person. That's right, just one person, as a token of your appreciation for the hard work you put into making content that educates and helps you on your mission of building your own fortune. Remember, you can watch video after video, but it isn't until you actually take action that you'll start to see results. See you soon!